Perfect. We're just jumping back in. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a nice little break and refilled your coffee or tea. I'm joined here by Beth. Hi, Beth.
Hi there, Erica. It's good to see you.
You too. It's been a while.
Yes. So I'm really excited about today, and I know that you're coming off of a wonderful session with Elizabeth Dalton and a comfort break.
Yeah,
So we're going to have a nice soft start to our 5 minutes together too. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, really looking forward to it. So take it away whenever you're ready, Beth.
Terrific. Okay, thanks, Erica. Welcome, everyone. I'm so honored to be here with you today, and I wanted to start off by empowering everyone to navigate the resources that we will be taking a closer look at. So, if you want to go ahead and open up the link that has just been shared in the chat, I'm going to do that one more time. Know that this is a sustainable web microsite that won't go away. So you can feel free to share it with any of your colleagues. I actually have it opened up to the letter F, which is take a break. So if you're not done taking a break, please feel free to open up the take a break choice board. And again, feel free to share it with whomever you like. And check out for a couple of minutes and self-regulate and join us when you're ready. That's absolutely fine. Now I'm going to go over to the table of contents and go to the letter A and just let you know that the slides, my apologies, they were shared with you as a PDF, are accessible here in Google Slide format. So you can just click on the kite, catch the kite string to take a look at those slides. And then right below the slides, you're going to see a key for optional emoji chats, the reactions that you might choose as we're surveying the collection together. And then below that, you'll see two options for accessing the Aiming for All collection, which I'm going to be explaining in further detail in just a moment. But for wayfinding, know that it's here for you in the form of a live binder that you can see right here via shortened link and QR. And the duplicate information is also available for you on an Aiming for All wiki, which you can see right below. So without further ado, now that we can wayfind together, please keep this tab open because I'll be referring to it later on in our time together. But now I'm going to do what all presenters do best and refer to my slide deck so we can find out a little bit more about the why behind the Aiming for All collection. Let's see, and let me know, is this is this in present mode? I sure hope so.
It
All
is indeed.
right.
Beth, you're good to go.
Brilliant. That's always a good thing. All right. So I'm Beth Stark. I'm actually joining you from not too far away in my home in Dresden, Germany, where I have lived for almost 20 years. I have an origin story as an educator for students who are blind and low vision. I have been fascinated with the potential for technology to reduce barriers for learning my entire professional life. And it has been a winding road because, of course, I ended up moving here to Dresden, Germany. I worked as a secondary school learning support coordinator in an international school that ran the International Baccalaureate Program Continuum for many years, over 16 years. And I eventually, over time, stopped doing consulting work part-time and moved over to full-time consulting with schools all over the world. And I do my very best to support their interests and enthusiasm around the UDL framework and implementing the framework in their international school. And that's where this collection comes in. So, as we are spending our 45 minutes together, know that there will not be any breakout room time, but that hopefully the emoji key and your best judgment will allow you to fully participate in the chat. And also know that at any time you are more than welcome to share questions in the chat. I am incredibly interruptible, as Tom Tobin always says. It's important for you to feel open and comfortable to express your doubts and your curiosities. So I suppose the provocation or the the most important quote here is really that accessibility is not a problem to be solved, but a culture to be built. And oftentimes in the world of universal design for learning, we refer to a very famous buffet analogy about the importance of choice when it comes to really supporting competency, autonomy, and of course the big goal, which is fostering learner agency. And yet, a lot of my work in international schools is in different regions of the world where accessibility is not only not codified into laws and regulations, it is an afterthought and something that is just not on the agenda. And so, my hopes for thoughtfully embedding accessibility into the lived learning about the UDL framework wasn't really cutting it. So I realized over time that one-off one-pagers and resources and giving strategies and tips was actually doing a disservice to the hopes and the dreams behind creating a more accessible learning culture. And so because this was such a gaping hole in my practice as a consultant, I was failing left and right when it came to making sure that my enthusiasm about accessibility was contagious. Of course, it's not. I decided to approach it through the lens of UDL. And so over the course of 2 years, and of course, it's never done. I have been developing this Aiming for All collection and vetting resources and gathering feedback to ultimately create a collection that allows for any member, any stakeholder in any learning community to have a soft place to start on their UDL and digital and face-to-face accessibility journey. So the goal is very simple. It's to support everyone in a school or a learning community to really work to center accessibility in how we teach, learn, lead, and design. All right. So, just another quick reference. As we are walking through the collection together and the resources that support it, I want to encourage everyone to refer to this reaction menu if you want to. It's also in our shared s'more. And the s'more is the microsite that I shared in the chat at the very beginning. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome. And here is that link one more time for you. I wonder if I'm going to be able to drop it. That's the million-dollar question right now. So,
I can do that for you, Beth, if you want.
oh, there we
Oh,
go.
you got
Yes. Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah. So make sure that you have access to that link, which is now in the chat one more time. And away we go. So when you land in the Live Binder, please be aware that it is not a fully accessible platform. And that's part of the reason why I'm really encouraging people to embrace multiple modalities and, before saying, oh, we have to throw this Live Binder approach out, instead, how can we supplement it by creating a duplicate format that is accessible in different ways? And so the Aiming for All collection is really offered in two modalities. And within those two modalities, it's divided up into six, what I would want to call chapters. The difference between chapters and really entry points, which is probably the better but much more academic way of referring to these six headlines here, is that chapters are usually sequential And what I was hoping to do in the design was allow for 6 places for anyone to choose to begin. And so we're going to go in sequential order today, but know that it's not information that is layering upon itself. Instead, there is one focus for each of the 6 groupings. And I couldn't help but start with curb cuts. So for many of you, you've heard the phrase when we reduce barriers for someone who really needs it, we're also benefiting everyone. And that, there's lots of different ways to express that sentiment. And well, there's a lot of one-liners in the world of UDL about this idea that, you know, we have to look at the choices that we make with our time and energy, and it's a better idea to do, to reduce barriers when we see that it's benefiting everyone. This was also part of my big UDLY for many years. And what I realized is it wasn't effective. And part of the reason why is because people were not making the natural connection to the origin of curb cuts. And the origin of curb cuts has very little to do with helping the entire community, and it has everything to do with the dignity and the human rights of a select number of people who lack access. And that's the origin story of UDL as well. And what you see in front of you is actually a picture of the very first curb cut, which was created in 1945. As you can see, it also had rails. And that's a picture of a street corner in Kalamazoo, Michigan. There was a huge VA, Veterans Rehabilitation Center, for veterans who are returning back to the United States after serving in the armed forces. And sadly, having injuries that required several months in a rehabilitation center. They would go out with their teams of nurses to take walks and get fresh air, but unfortunately, they couldn't get very far because of the 90-degree curbs that would not allow many of the individuals with wheelchairs and braces and who needed extra assistance to cross the streets. So for about 12,000, the equivalent of 12,000 US dollars, a very upstanding lawyer in the community proposed that the city council pass an ordinance to create curb cuts so that those veterans could take walks on the daily. And that's the origin story that I really want people to hold on to, and I hope that it resonates, because it was not about making things a little bit easier and creating more variety for the middle of the bell curve. It was about human rights and dignity. So how do I do that without sounding too preachy? Well, it's not easy, but certainly making sure that equity and access are part of the conversation is my hope. So we start at, what about curb cuts? And if you take a moment to look into the resource, either the live binder or the wiki, you will see the anchor statement about curb cuts, and then carefully vetted resources that are specifically created by individuals with disabilities for the most part. I really wanted to center the voices of people with disabilities, and they really focus in on one truthism, that when we are talking about accessibility, we are talking about human rights. And it's important that everyone see that this is about us making progress as a global community and reducing barriers for those people who deserve it. All right. So again, 2 marks for being a bit too preachy. I know that we're all in this together, but it was really important for me to really center the collection around this truth. So foundations, next up, number 2. Quite often, it's a question people don't feel comfortable asking, but we all know that accessibility should be important. but I wanted to control the narrative and give some really high quality resources to answer the question that oftentimes is not asked, but should be, which is, why do you want me to prioritize accessibility? I understand it's about compliance. I understand that it's the right thing to do, but quite often people don't see the connections to how we're working to make progress towards a more equitable society through equitable education. So that's where foundations comes in as a close runner up to number one, curb cuts. So I want to take a pause right now to make sure that all of you can access the resources in the Aiming for All collection. The goal and the hope behind the collection is clear, and that you have a minute to process or perhaps ask a question before we move forward. All right. Yeah, super. I'm glad to hear. Okay, it's working. Mm-hmm. Super. Okay. Yes, I'm a big fan of the wiki as well. And you can see I gave three different choices of fonts as well. Again, this is really trying to model multiple modalities. Alrighty. So oftentimes we think about accessibility within the context of digital resources, but what you can see here for three, accessibility for learning communities, is that it extends to all stakeholders in a learning community. So as you read over this list of perhaps K through 12 learning communities, and you're thinking about it through the lens of higher education or your institution. Um, do any of these really resonate, sound familiar? Do you have any other ideas about other stakeholders or members of your institution that might benefit from the resources here? Can drop that in the chat if you like. You can see I'm a little too ambitious with the slides. There we go. All right. Course materials, absolutely. Yes, but when we have a welcome evening for prospective students, or we're sending out our very first newsletter, or we're inviting someone onto the campus that's going to be interacting with students who may have intellectual disabilities, there's all of these question marks around um, how we make sure that every experience is accessible for every member of a learning community. And that's a big ask. That's a lot to ask. But we see that accessibility does not live in silos. It's really about identifying and removing barriers in so many contexts. And how to do that is really a big challenge for sure. And I believe that it really starts with having access to the right kind of information. All right, so we are now going to hop over to the sixth choice in the full collection, which is called No Cost Digital Resources. So I'm going to give everyone a moment to pause and open up the No Cost Digital Resources collection. And I want to explain a little bit about how it's been developed. And if you read the details at the top of the description, you will see very quickly that not every resource or tool here is designed through the lens of accessibility, but every resource can be used to reduce barriers. I have contacted every single organization and company and person behind every resource here. And first of all, of course, wanted approval. It let them know it was, part of the collection, and then gently encouraged them to pursue a much more accessible website or to really look into compliance. But I didn't take their resource out because I really believe at this stage we cannot take a zero-sum approach to accessibility, but instead I chose the approach of radical communication and transparency. So I was very upfront about the fact that not every resource is fully accessible, and yet my hope is that this collection will continuously evolve, and perhaps in 1 or 2 years, I will have enough replacement or improvement to really look at this resource as a fully accessible collection. All right, I'm stumbling over my words a bit because it's really your chance to take a closer look. So what I'd like to do right now is give you about 2 minutes to actually do a little treasure hunt. Look at the resources. They're organized in two ways on purpose, because sometimes we'll focus in on just the area that we're most interested in. And so you can just click on a random A through Z letter, or you can look at the 6 categories that they are organized under. Whatever works for you, I'm going to give us all 2 minutes. And then in the chat, if you would like to use your emoji menu, you can. But please share one particular resource that you're interested in exploring more or bookmarking or sharing with your team. All right, and then we'll come back together and move forward in 2 minutes. So I can't wait to see what lands in the chat. All right. So I'm going to start verbally lifting up what I see in the chat. So I'm going to start with Danielle's comment actually about the audit tools. Yes, those are super powerful, put out by a team about 15 years ago at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. I'm in touch with them. I told them these are amazing. And I can't find anything that has been produced within, since then that tops them. So we're going to be working together to potentially make some digital updates to make them a bit more accessible. But they're still wonderful in their, in their format, even though some people have some hard times accessing them. It's still great to see. Okay. Super. So Elizabeth, thank you so much. Uh-huh. I'm glad to see that yeah, tech does change so quickly. Um, And yes, it was really my pleasure. I had so much fun as a learner, really trying to refine the list and giving myself only A to Z as the letters as a way to really be a careful filter for myself because I don't want to overwhelm. And yet there's so much out there. All right. So I'm going to see that JCap screen recorder, right? Open source screen recorder for Mac and okay. Super. He was super friendly, the creator of those. We might actually meet to talk a little bit more about how we can lift up the fact that, again, open source tools, OER, open educational materials, anytime that I can really amplify the work that other people are dedicating and volunteering their time to share, I want to do that. OptiKey, super fascinating tool. Highly recommend downloading the app. I know that many teachers in multilingual classroom or classrooms with students who are multilingual and haven't yet developed um, robust literacy skills in English are using OptiKey as well in tandem as a translation tool and a meaning maker tool. So there are many ways to hack the goal of many of these tools. Okay, yes, Rewordify. I chose to keep Rewordify as a separate tool because it's now embedded in the read and write toolbar. But I think as a standalone, it's incredibly powerful. I do want to emphasize that any tool that reduces the complexity of text, we always want to couple those that rewordification with the original text to really encourage those learners to make meaning and connections on their own. Um, yeah, super. I'm glad that we had lots of discoveries and there's more to be had. So we're going to move forward together. And as you can see, I have slippery fingers and I'm moving the slides all over the place, but here's another barrier that's so common. We find a great tool and it may not be on our, approved whitelist in our school or our institution. And then all of a sudden, it just gets buried. So what I've done is I've created this make a copy um, spreadsheet of each of these tools in the A to Z list. Please feel free to download the Excel, which is also in this more, or make a copy of this spreadsheet. So it gives a little bit of context, a description of each tool, and then you actually can hand this over to a tech specialist in your department or in your school so that they can whitelist all of them or say, no, we can't use this. Or even better yet, tell you we already have a tool that we're paying for that actually incorporates this. And let's have a conversation about how we can make sure more people know about this tool. That happens more often than you'd expect. So know that that tool is there for you to empower your colleagues. And I'm going to read a comment in the chat. Uh-huh. Have you come up? Oh, thank you, Neil. Have you come up against Rewordify from AI features being a problem? So when you say being a problem, I always consider the educator or the instructional leader to be the last word. So any tool via AI that's creating a draft of a rewordification or a simplification, you can do that, of course, with the Claude or ChatGPT. They're just creating a draft. So I always encourage the teachers to spend the minutes that they're gaining with digital tools and LLMs to become more careful and discerning proofreaders because ultimately they're the ones with expertise. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. All right, so there are two areas that we did not touch upon. We talked a little bit about the why behind what about curb cuts, foundation, so that you and your colleagues feel equipped to answer the question that's not being asked, which is why? Why do you want me to prioritize accessibility? We talked about accessibility for learning communities briefly, but please spend some time digging into the guides that are there and a lot of the guidance that really stretches outside of the lecture halls and learning spaces and into our shared community as learners. I really encourage you to take a closer look at number 4. It's a very select amount of information and it will keep growing, but really worth your time. And I know, of course, many of you are joining us from Ireland, so you won't be surprised to see that ahead courses are listed there under no-cost courses. And so if you are interested in accessibility for data visualization, for example, or really searching for more guidance on inclusive research, know that there is also additional resources under number 5 so that we can all work to reduce barriers. All right. And we've had lots of fun looking at the no-cost digital resources. But now, how do we make this a really purposeful collection for people who perhaps aren't as passionate about accessibility as we are? Because of course, that's the open secret. This is so much fun for us, but what about someone who's joining a learning community and is in charge of, for example, putting together a student event for prospective students, or an intern who is working on social media within a school? What I've done here is I've provided a starting points guide. So anyone who's working within the world of communication in an institution can then take this one pager, which is available both in HTML and also as a downloadable PDF, which is in its present states accessible. If you attach it as an email, poof, it all goes away. But the HTML is an option. And what it does is it creates, 5 meaningful starting points. So if you bring someone on board and they are going to be communicating and making connections with individuals in the institution, these are some resources that they should prioritize and skim and hopefully dig into further. So I'm in the process of creating these starting points guides, and I welcome any feedback that you have, because I would love to make these starting point guides for a huge array of stakeholders in any school or learning institution, because I think that it would really help people to kind of lower the threat level when it comes to accessibility and have a soft place to start on their accessibility journey, or to really expand their definition of what it means to design through the lens of accessibility. So know that that's there for you as well to take a closer look at and to share with your colleagues. All right. Yes. I'm also creating an easy read in plain language glossary to the Aiming for All collection. And I'm just excited about how, as a design journey, it's been, never ending in the best of ways. So I'm always open to feedback, and know that this site here is not going away. I consider the Aiming for All collection to be hopefully a model for how to design open educational resources through the lens of accessibility through multiple modalities, and not allowing for a lack of perfection to get in the way of progress. As we close our time together, actually, I want to focus back in on what my process has been like. Yes, I did choose to share resources that were not 100% accessible, that are housed on sites that are not fully accessible. And I did so by accepting that horizontal hostility and judgment in the world of people who are fighting the good fight when it comes to reducing barriers is something to be expected, and it's a form of compassionate feedback. So I anticipated a certain amount of horizontal hostility, And so instead of choosing not to share the collection, I just really was very transparent about the resources, about my scope of practice as well, and also to embrace this concept that is really important, nothing about us without us. And I was very clear that I worked very hard to center the voices of people with disabilities in the design of the collection. So I just want to be clear with you that it's not about perfection. It's really about embracing our positionality. I am a non-disabled consultant and I, of course, am CPAC certified and I have an origin story as a teacher of students with who are blind and low vision. But should my voice be front and center when it comes to accessibility? That's something that many people have of varied opinions about. And so I don't want to sidestep that. I want to invite feedback and I want to invite those conversations around that topic because I do believe that this concept of allyship deserves more conversation and to really see that contributions that are thoughtfully designed can really, push the entire culture of accessibility forward. So those are just my little closing remarks to make sure that you understand the intent behind the design, my hopes as well to be hopefully not just a sharer of resources, but a model for what it means to design OER through the lens of accessibility. And know that there is a great research paper also on the SMORE that you can take a closer look at. And in our closing time together, we only have a couple more minutes. So I want to go ahead and ask everyone to perhaps share a resource in the collection that you want to dig into or a closing thought. If you'd like to choose an emoji that makes sense to you, go for it, but no pressure. Yes. Great. I'm just enjoying the emojis. Sorry, I'm just sitting and staring at the chat, but I really should take this moment to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share and to present. I really do value all the that you do for learning communities around the world, and I feel so honored to be a part of this wonderful gathering in 2026. And I hope to stay in contact with all of you. Please feel free to get in touch with me and share feedback or ideas for how to improve the collection. I'm always, always open. And enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Huge, huge thank you, Beth. What a cool presentation. What a cool resource too. And it's amazing that that's just there for us now.
Yep, it's not going anywhere. Hopefully, it will only get better with time. That's my hope.
Yeah, cool. Huge thank you. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. And I know we'll
Oh,
hear from you soon anyways.
I love it. Okay, thank you very much. All right,
Thanks
have a
so
good
much,
rest of the
Beth.
day. Thank you.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon.